This is BayRadio.
I've touted this as a pension special with yourself because it's obviously a big part of what you do, core business at Blacktower Financial Management. I didn't give you too much notice. I texted you yesterday. I said, can we do this? Because, should we start with this thing, the reason I mentioned it, the reason it came up?
Yes.
Or do you want to start with something else?
No, that's fine. What happened was I had a review with someone and they came in and I was talking about, they were going through their assets, liabilities. And I said, right, in there you need to include your state pensions, your UK state pension, your Spanish state pension. I said, because that, whether you like it or not, it's a guaranteed income. It gives you that stability. And this person turned around and said, well, how do I find out what I'm due for my UK state pension? I said, well, there is a link you can go to, and it's very, very simple. All you have to go is go on the internet, you go to www.gov.uk, I think it's /check-state-pension. Click on that, takes you through. You just have to put your name, your date of birth. It will tell you the date that you are due to get a UK state pension. Then you put in your national insurance number and it will tell you how much of a state pension you're going to get, if anything. So you know the date you're going to get it. It will tell you what you're going to get a weekly based on today's figures and what you're going to get annually. And it's something that that is guaranteed. You could do the same for Spanish state pension, but this person was really, really happy because he'd had lots of financial reviews with other people, and all they were interested in is, you've got this much cash, we'll invest it. Not a cash flow forecast, which is what we do at Blacktower. We go through what you've got coming in, not now, but in the future, to work out. And then we ask you what you think your income requirements are now, what there will be in retirement, post-retirement, and we include in things like your UK state pension, your Spanish pension, any other pensions you've got, anything coming in. We are not just we're just not interested in grabbing any money you've got and investing it. That is not financial advice. That really isn't. And if anyone's done that to you, please just walk away. Some people have come to me and said they've gone in, they've said to people, I've got this investment with someone else. I'll cash that investment in, come to us. No concept of capital gains tax, not interested in what they've got in state pensions. What you've got to do is a full financial review, not cherry pick the bits that are going to earn you money. You've got to make this person's financial future secure as possible. State pensions in Spain. Again, what used to happen before, if you were in the EU, they combined the pensions. So if you'd done 15 years in the UK, 15 years in Spain, you lived in Spain, they added them together and you'd done 30 years in Spain and you get the equivalent. That's been split apart now because of Brexit. So you will get a separate UK pension if you're entitled to it and a separate Spanish pension if you're entitled to it. Now, for both of them, you've got to work for at least 15 years before you can get a pension. The state pension age at the moment in Spain is 65 and 10 months. Now that is going up 2 months each year until 2027 when the state pension age will be 67.
Right.
Okay, you can retire still at 65 if you've paid in 37 years to the social security system. In Spain, when you take your pension, you are not allowed to work. So you can't have a pension and state pension and work. So you have to say you're not going to work anymore. And once you do that, you can get your pension. Now, it's quite high. The maximum in 2020 was €2,683 a month.
That's not too shabby. Yeah.
Compare that to the UK. I think it's one of the highest in Europe, obviously not higher than France. And if you've done 15 years, you get 50% of that. So the average is about €1,200 a month for men. And sadly for women, it's only $750. But you've got to have paid in 15 years contribution. And when I say a month, you actually get 14 payments a year in Spain. So that's, you get that every, 3 point something, 4 weeks. So you must have done, but when you get a Spanish pension, you've got to have done 15 years and you've got to have been contributing for at least 2 years in that 15 years before you retire. So the 2 years before you retire. If you want to know anything about Spanish pensions, there is actually information on it in English on the Social Security page, and that is seg-social.es, or there is an EU page, which is really, really good, which is ec.europa.ec /social. What I'll do is I'll type this up and I'll give it to BayRadio, and you can put it on your Facebook
we'll
or
put it
link,
up as a post,
so people have it.
How come the women's one, is this a daft question, how come it's so much less than the men's?
Because most women in Spain still haven't worked in a full-time job, so haven't contributed enough.
Okay.
It is very sad. It's still that's still the case. I think that's very, very wrong. I think if a woman stays at home, and this is my idea for politicians, if a woman stays at home and looks after the children and the man goes to work, he should be made to pay more into the state pension scheme to top up the woman's pension, so that when she retires, she gets a full pension as well. I think it's very unfair that you stay at home, you bring up a family, you're helping society, you're bringing up hopefully good individuals who are going to contribute through work in later life, and yet you get penalised by less of a pension. So that's why it is still happening. If you are from the EU and you have contributed in your state and you do live in Spain, again, they will... Your years in your other countries, say France, Italy, will count towards your years in Spain, and they will add those together. Spain can put in place a bilateral agreement with the UK after Brexit, which says that the pensions will be combined. But for most people, keeping them separate is actually better financially. Unless you've done under the 15 years in Spain, unless you've done under the minimum in the UK. If you've done the 15 years in both, it's better to have them separate. There's also the banks. They offer very good, if you go into some of the banks like BBVA, they have pension calculators. And what that will do is you can put in how much you're going to get. It will tell you what your shortfall is. Also, it tells you about saving in Spain. If you can save €8,000 a year tax-free into a pension scheme, as long as it's approved by the Spanish government. So it's not like a Curops or a SIP, which we'll go on to in a little while. So that is good. If you're earning good money, putting away $8,000 a year is a very, very good idea.
Yeah.
So that's something you need to look in as well. But as I said, I will type all that up. And you said we were going to talk about pensions, and I don't have the Daily Mail listening because I went onto their money page today, and the first page is British workers have no idea how their pensions work, and only a third realise that workplace pension schemes are invested in the stock market. Which is very, very worrying, but it does actually mirror what I find when people come to see to me and talk about pensions. People seem to hear the word pension and they just glaze over.
Yeah, I can sort of understand that.
They just seem to think that someone is taking care of it for them. They can just sit back and relax, don't need to worry. No, that's a fatal mistake. The people who thought it was invested in the stock market, they thought it was put aside in some safe place that grew in an unspecified way. I wish I'd be doing that every day. The only reason you're going to get any growth on anything is by investing. So therefore you have risk. And they had the percentages. It was 22% of women and 40% of men didn't realise, had no idea how their pension worked. And what we got, retirement options. Only 24% of women and 38% of men knew what their retirement options were. We can talk about that in a little while. Only 23% of women and 36% of men were confident they could afford to retire. Okay, and 23% of women and 36% had no idea of how much money they needed when they retired. Now, this is very worrying, and I will go into what you need to do to address this, to understand more about your pension and to understand how you factor in your state pension, etc.
Yeah, okay. A little post I put up on our Facebook page to sort of tease this. It's a little cartoon there. I'm going to retire and live off my savings. What I'm going to do the next day, I have no idea. Anyway, just back to very quickly to the UK pension bit. So it will be the case that many people may, if they've been in Spain for a while, probably just forgotten about it.
Most people do forget about it.
And so what happens if they broke off and became a Spanish tax resident, whatever you'd contributed up until then, you're still due that. Whatever you accrued, you
still get a pension. And most people, when they've moved to Spain, if you've moved here in your 50s, late 50s or 60s, you've contributed for 20, 30 years in the UK. So you may have forgotten it. And if you suddenly find out that age 66 and a half, which seems to be the average age now, you're going to get an extra £9,000 a year, guaranteed, for life, with the triple lock if that exists. We can talk about that later. it takes a lot of worry off, because for most people, £9,000 in Spain is nearly enough to live on if you don't have a mortgage and you don't have many other debts. So it can actually give you some sense of relief. So we will post that link, and please advise people, don't try and crash the link. Take your time, but go on and find out what you are due and when, and it will tell you if you're under what you can make in contributions to bring it up, so you do get a pension. And for some people, that is a very viable option.
Yes, it came up. It gives you the figure as things stand, and then it will give you the figure at your retirement date if you keep up the payments and contributions. Yeah.
We should remind people that with a UK state pension, you can't get it at age 55.
Right.
It has to be the state pension age, the minimum state pension age. As I said, in Spain, that is now 65 and 10 months. And in the UK, for most people, it's 66 or 66 and a half. Also, you cannot transfer a state pension. You cannot move it. You cannot invest it yourself. It is a state pension. It's given to you by the government. It's managed by the government. You just accept that money. And at the moment, in the UK, it rises. There's a triple lock, so you get the higher of, is it the retail price index, 2%, or I can't remember if it's 2 or 3%, or the higher of
highest out of earnings growth, price inflation, or 2.5%.
2.5%. However, there has been talk of getting rid of that to pay for the COVID. Some people in the government are against it, some are for it. I think they'll wait. If they won another election, then they'll get rid of it. Whoever wins the next election will get rid of it, because they can't sustain it.
It looks like Rishi Sunak looking to maybe get rid of it, but Boris Johnson not so keen.
I think he's worried about the voters, but at the moment, when you've got negative inflation and they're guaranteed 2.5%, it doesn't seem fair. I would temporarily suspend it. I wouldn't get rid of it. But the trouble is, when they temporarily suspend something, they tend never to bring it back. And for pensioners, for some of them, that is their lifeline. So just remember, your state pension you can only get at whatever the state pension age is in the country you live in. You can get sometimes a little bit earlier if you've got a disability, etc., but it's not a lot earlier. And then we'll go back onto normal pensions. We were just talking about how many people didn't know much about their pension. There was something that said most of them didn't know what their retirement options were. Most of them didn't even know how much was in their pension pot. What you should do is you should take control, and you need to take control. You get in touch with your pension companies, you ask them to send you an annual pension. That pension will tell you how much you've got in your pension pot, and if you're near your nominated retirement age, so you can nominate a retirement age any age after 55. It doesn't mean you have to retire at that age. Most people nominate ages either 60 or 65. You can extend that up to 75 as long as you take your pension before 75, or you can take it whenever. But just ask them how much is in your pension pot, what your nominated retirement age is, and what their predicted pension will be at that age. That's one start. That's a good thing. Also, there's an online pension calculator where you can put in what you want to get from your retirement, what you're earning now, what you think you're coming in. It will tell you what shortfall you've got, if anything, which is always a good thing to know. You put in what you think you need to live on when you retire. It will tell you. Now, with options, when you retire, you've got various options. One option, if you've got flexible drawdown on your pension. Now, quite a lot of private pensions that were taken out in the 80s, late 90s, early 90s, don't have flexible drawdown. Well, flexible drawdown means that you could take income when you want, how much you want, whenever you want. They don't have that option, so you have to transfer it elsewhere. Now, if you're in the UK, it's easy. Usually your provider can transfer it into a flexible drawdown scheme. If you live abroad, they can't, and you have to transfer it into another pension scheme. Now, abroad, you have two options. You have either a SIP, a self-invested personal pension, or a CureOps. Of the two, SIPs tend to be cheaper. CureOps may, depending on what happens with Brexit, not be a viable option after December. They are now. If you've got one now, it will always carry on being a good idea. And also, if you're coming up to 75, a SIP is not a good option because you incur death tax in the UK, because a SIP is still governed by UK tax law.
Right.
That's what you have to remember. If you go to a cure-ops, you're opting out of UK jurisdiction, so you're no longer governed by UK tax law. So for a cure-ops, if you've got a large pension, you're no longer subject to the lifetime allowance, which is a key thing. You don't have to worry about when you get to 75 that you're going to be subject to a death tax. So there's pros and cons for each. So you really need to talk to a financial advisor to find out which one is best for you. Also, so they'll offer you the option, if you have got flexible drawdown, to take flexible drawdown, they'll offer you to take a PCLS. Now, what that is a pension commencement lump sum, and in the UK that is tax-free, and that's up to 25% of your pension pot. And that can be paid as soon as you're 55. Now, that is only tax-free in the UK. In Spain, that is taxable. So you tell the tax man, he will tax you. Your pension company, unless they know you live in Spain, well, they don't report it at all because it's tax-free in the UK. So they'll give you that. You can either cash in your whole pension. If you do that, you get 25% tax-free. The rest of it is taxed at usually the higher rate of tax, which can be 45, 50, whatever percent. So that really isn't an option. I would say to most people, please don't do that. You're throwing away so much money. It's better to keep it. So they'll offer you those. You can transfer it, or you can buy an annuity. Now, an annuity offers you an income for life. You can either get that fixed, or you can get it so it raises with inflation, raises with CPI. You can get it on a sole life or a joint life. At the moment, annuity rates are very, very low. So what they'll do is we give you an annuity rate of 3%. So that means if you've got 100,000 in there, you will get 3,000 for life.
Right.
Which is not a lot. The annuity rates are based on gilt rates and on interest rates come into play as well. So if they're low, you're going to get a very low return on your money. I had someone who'd taken out an annuity in the 90s, and they were guaranteed 15% for life. So that is a huge amount. Right. So for most people, annuities are not an option because the returns are so low. So if you're going for a sole life, you may get 3 or 4%. If you're going for a joint life, you may only get 2%, which is not very good. With an annuity as well, you take it out for life. So say I took it out today and I had 100,000 in there. I'm guaranteed 3,000 a year for life. Let's say I die in 6 years' time. That dies with me. There's nothing to leave to anyone else. They keep it. Right. Okay, but if I live for more than 30 years or whatever, how many years I need to use up that money, it'd be more than 30 years, but that's a bit ridiculous. But, if you say you've got 30,000 and they're going to give you 5,000 a year, if you live for longer than that, then you're obviously they're paying you money for nothing, sort of.
Okay.
But it's very, very rare. Usually they factor in, so you're going to live to be a minimum of, say, 86 or 90. So most people don't think they're going to live that long. So for some people, annuities are good. What you have to remember as well, in Spain, annuities are taxed very, very favourably. In Spain, you pay hardly any tax on an annuity, be it a permanent annuity or a temporary annuity. So for some people, even if the rate they're offered is, say, 4 or 5%, the amount of tax they're going to save makes it worthwhile doing. Again, you need to speak to a financial advisor. And I know it seems like there are lots of options, but that once you sit them on, when people come to me, I write them all down and I explain every single one, and I'll give it to people to go away and read. And I make it as simple as possible to understand, because it can seem confusing, but it really, really isn't. And people do need to take control of their future. If you go into a flexi drawdown, if you transfer your pension to a SIP or a cure-ops, away from a pension provider like Aviva, Pru, Royal London, Standard Life, you have more control over what it's invested in. A financial advisor will give you advice. Some people there's not very often, I'd say 99% of people go with the advice you give them, but there's the odd 1 or 2% that think they know better. I had someone who wanted to invest 100% of his pension pot in Tesla shares. Now, that's not diversified. That gives you no risk protection. So he had to sign an insistent client, absolve us of any liability, and we did it for him. And he has made a fortune in the last few months. But as he said, all you need is for Mr. Musk to make
another
weird comment.
Goof.
And it could plunge again. So some people do come to us. They want sustainable funds. They will want to invest in certain countries, certain markets. At the moment, technology, biotechnology is key. People are coming in saying they want that, although the prices on that are quite high at the moment, so you have to be careful. I'd only put a small percentage in there. So they'll come with some ideas. We talk about it. I would never dictate to someone what they have to invest in.
No.
We go through it. It's very flexible. I'll give them my ideas. I'll give them the returns those funds have had. But some people may have a preference. And if you go to a financial advisor who says, this is what I recommend for all my growth clients, my balanced clients, my cautious clients, not everyone's the same. You all have different wants and needs. So that has to be tailored to meet your wants and needs. It can be, there can be a basic template, but it needs to be flexible. Never, ever be bullied into doing anything you don't understand. If investment returns seem very high, then the figures have been manipulated to make them seem high, or it's something you shouldn't be investing in. So please be very, very wary. I've had some people who've been to see people and they've said, look, the FTSE went down, and if you'd been in my portfolio, you wouldn't have gone down, you would have made 60%. Well, that's a load of balderdash. What they've done is they've put a portfolio together after the fall with shares that did well.
Right.
So it makes it look really, really good. Everyone suffered a little bit through that downturn, some people more than others, depending on what you invested in. But if you have a diversified portfolio, you didn't take too much of a hit. And I can honestly say that most portfolios that we manage, not that have been put with a provider that does their own portfolios, but ones we manage are either back to the level before the crash, or I'd say most of them are above that level and doing very, very well. People are very, very happy. But as I said, with your pension, you can have flexibility.
It's relatively recent, isn't it, that you were able to, I always say, attack your pension at age 55 or whatever.
This was under that funny Prime Minister we had who did the vote on Brexit. What was his name? Cameron.
Oh, it wasn't, yes.
And his Chancellor, whose name, George Osborne, that's the man.
That's right,
I tried to forget both of them because it was a nightmare, but he brought into place pension freedom. And
how's it gone? Have you seen people come into grief because they've taken too much out?
In the UK, there has been lots and lots of people come into grief. What they've done is they've cashed in final salary pensions that they shouldn't have done. Private pensions, they've cashed in all of them, not realising the tax implications, had to pay a huge amount of taxes, invested unwisely. They've been targeted by lots of scammers offering them huge returns, and people are gullible. People, anyone can fall for a scam. These scammers are so good. So quite a few people have lost out. And as I said, people are scared of pensions. They don't understand it. So people are cold calling them saying, we can make your pension easy for you. We can take over control. We can do this. I've known people, and you've seen the advert on the telly when you see someone on a jet ski riding around in the Bahamas, having a whale of a time, and someone's at home with nothing of their pension pot. You think that's not true. I met someone the other day, and that had happened to them. 150,000 had gone overnight.
Yep.
They said they were a financial advisor, but said, we can advise you on stuff off market. We can get you returns of 16, 20%. These people thought, yes, went for it. Money gone. No right of recourse. We'll never get that money back. What are you going to do when you're in your 70s? You can't go out to work. You've got to be really, really careful. So please, I am urging everyone, on the side of caution where your pensions are at stake.
Focusing on pensions this week, sort of my idea, this. I thought there's, it's your core business, well, part of it. And also there is the UK and Spain, both sides of things, and how they cross over sometimes. So if you become tax resident in Spain, obviously things change a little bit.
Yeah, last week when I mentioned that people were stranded here because of the CV19, the OECD has said to countries, please don't enforce tax rules on them. Oh, well, Spain has gone against that advice. I did mention it last time, but it's been confirmed. Spain extends tax residency rules to lockdown, and it's going to be enforced. So Spain has announced that all individuals who spend more than 183 days in any given tax year will be treated as tax resident of Spain, even if their stay was mandatory due to COVID-19 travel restrictions. So this was announced by the Spanish Directorate General of Tax this week, and it will apply to any foreigner who originally intended only to stay for a few weeks or months in the country and ended up staying here longer because of the CV19. So what Spain is saying is that you are now liable for personal income tax on the year 2020 if you were here for more than 183 days, and included in that he has put wealth tax as well. And this announcement has caught many foreigners by surprise. And so it's affected people not only from England, from the US, from Canada, from Australia. We had some Lebanese people who took it to the courts, and the courts ruled in the tax people's favour. So that is quite worrying when they go against the advice, because the OECD in April did issue guidance to all tax authorities across the world, advising them not to treat individuals stranded through no fault of their own as tax resident of their country. But Spain, no. Okay.
So what are they taxing then? What
they're doing is they're saying, if you were here for more than 183 days, we want to know what you earned in the whole of this year, and we will tax you on it.
Even if it wasn't earned in
No, your tax resident in Spain, so that's on your worldwide assets.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and wealth tax is worked out on your assets as well. So people be very, very wary. Obviously, the Spanish have to find out that you've been here more than 183 days. So if you were careful, they won't know. But the onus, if they come to you, is for you to prove that you weren't here more than 183 days. They don't have to prove you were. You have to prove you weren't. So if you weren't, keep copies of your airline receipts if you flew or if you came on a ferry. Just keep whatever you have. So if they do happen to come to you, you've got proof. But just be wary of that. So don't go announcing to everyone, I've been here over the 6 months because I got stranded. Just keep it to yourself. Okay? Right. That's all I'm saying.
Are people still contesting this? Could it be that it's negated,
been to the courts.
Or is that it?
No, that's it.
That's happening.
They've ruled. So the EU may come down and say it's not right. You can't do this. But as we know, Spain just completely disregards anything the EU says and does whatever they want. So if any of you've got any questions on anything we've discussed today, especially pensions or investments, anything at all, you can get in touch with us. You've got 2 email addresses. One is BayRadio, all one word, at Blacktower FM. That stands for financialmanagement.com, or info at blacktowerfm.com. If you put for the attention of Christina, just come straight through to me. Or you can go onto our website, which is blacktowerfm.com. Look under Spain. I'm under Costa Blanca. You'll find my details. There's a contact form. Just fill it in, send it in, and put for the attention of Christina. It saves the girl at the other end having to fish through and find out who you want to speak to. And it will come through to me and we'll get back to you. You can always email studio@bayradio.fm. Is that right?
That's the one, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yep. Or you can call the office, which is 0034 for Spain, 965058212, and we will come back to you. On the phones, if you don't get an answer, it goes through to answer machine. Please leave a message if you can, and we'll come back to you, or try again. It usually means we're in a meeting. But we are here to help you and to make sure you don't worry unnecessarily, give you proper guidance on your financial future. So if you need good advice, impartial advice, as I said, the person who came to see me the other day was really worried, put their mind at rest. No business for me, but they went away happy. That's good for me. They refer me on to other people. I get very good business.
And as you were saying, some of the terms you've thrown out there, like your flexible drawdown and all of that, pension still may not be quite as complicated as people imagine. You'll be able to explain it pretty easily.
What we were saying in the break, we were saying that pensions always seem complicated, same as mortgages. When you actually break them down, they're not that complicated. Some financial institutions, financial advisors like things to appear complicated because they seem they're full of their own self-importance. But I think it's key for individuals to understand about their finances and their financial future. And I wish someone had done this when I was younger. We were saying when you're in your 20s and 30s, you don't care about pensions because you don't think you're going to, you don't really comprehend living to 70 or 80. It seems so far away. But when you get to your 40s and 50s, you wish you had, because then you could retire at 55 when you've still got some life and you enjoy life. And if you are retired, you need to make the most of your retirement income and make sure it carries on supporting you till you don't need it anymore. So please don't worry, just get in touch. We are here. We can give you guidance and help.